On June 10th, a Georgia appeals court opened a trial judge's order and found authorities that did not exist. The order had been drafted by an attorney. Then the court signed it. That signature changed the status of the text. Before the signature, the fabricated cases were defects inside a proposed order. After the signature, they sat inside a judicial act carrying the authority of the court until the appellate court vacated part of the ruling and sent the matter back. The record does not need a dramatic villain for the mechanism to matter. A draft crossed an institutional boundary. The institution's name gave unsupported text permission to act like law. The fiction did not become true. It became authoritative enough to require another court to unwind it. I'm Asif Waliuddin, founder of NxtGen.ai. This is AI Unveiled, Hype versus Reality. This is episode 4 of the Honor System. Today, the trust-laundering machine, when institutions sign the slop. Trusted institutions exist because nobody can independently verify everything. You should not have to reproduce every calculation behind an audit, inspect every authority in a court order, reopen every source in a research paper, or rebuild every market model in a consulting report. Courts, universities, agencies, professional firms, standards bodies, and newsrooms compress verification. Their output tells the rest of us that a process happened before the institution put its name on the result. AI can make that machinery faster. It can search larger records, compare conflicting documents, draft a first version, inspect citations, and surface anomalies a tired human may miss. That is real value. The failure begins when the institution's trust marker becomes a substitute for the evidence the marker is supposed to represent. The public sees the signature, not the source opening history. The executive sees the logo, not the claim inventory. The reader sees peer-reviewed, not the unresolved citation failures. The institution is supposed to compress verification. Without receipts, it can compress uncertainty and publish the compression as confidence. The vulnerability is older than generative AI. Repeated claims become easier to process. Familiarity starts feeling like truth, even when no new evidence has appeared. Source credibility adds a second shortcut. People often remember the claim more strongly than the warning attached to the source. Institutional publishing combines both effects. A claim appears in a report. A trade publication repeats it. An executive deck cites the article. A search engine indexes all three. An AI research tool returns the claim with several links. It looks independently corroborated. Sometimes it is one unsupported assertion, traveling through several institutions. The claim did not acquire proof. It acquired distance from its origin. That distance matters because every new wrapper makes the original verification failure harder to see and more expensive to reverse. The next consumer rarely starts from zero. A journalist trusts the report. A procurement team trusts the journalist. A model trusts the documents that survived into its retrieval index. Each handoff delegates verification backward to an institution that may have delegated it backward again. The claim can acquire a wide citation graph without acquiring one additional unit of proof. That is why the correction burden grows asymmetrically. Publishing the claim takes one approval. Unwinding it requires finding every place the institution's authority allowed the claim to travel. Now the fresh evidence, newest first. As of July 25th, legal researcher Damien Charlatan's working database displayed more than 1,800 court and tribunal records involving hallucinated or materially misrepresented authorities. That is a curated case corpus, not an incidence rate. It does not tell us what percentage of all filings contain fabricated material. It tells us the failure has become persistent enough to generate a global record of rulings, warnings, sanctions, and corrective orders. On July 24th alone, the database added matters involving a $3,000 sanction, an order to show cause, and additional warnings over fabricated or distorted authorities. The recurring boundary is not merely that a model produced bad text. The boundary is that someone submitted, signed, or relied on it without completing the verification the institution represented to the outside world. Courts are beginning to turn that responsibility boundary into explicit procedure. In June, the Ninth Circuit stressed that the professional violation occurs when unreliable material is signed and filed, not simply because an AI tool participated somewhere in research or drafting. Connecticut courts also moved to require independent verification of AI produced citations, authorities, and evidence in filings. Those rules do not ban the tool, they locate responsibility at the promotion boundary, the moment provisional work is offered to the institution, as something the institution may rely on. The scientific record is showing the same pressure. A July preprint audited accepted papers from top machine learning and security conferences using a deliberately strict definition. Non existent works and major author list mismatches, not ordinary formatting drift. The paper found that hallucinated references had survived peer review. The reference level rate remained low, but large proceedings created visible paper level failures. The author's stronger point was operational. Routine citation checking is technically tractable and inexpensive compared with the cost of letting archival errors compound. A May preprint looked much wider, 111 million references across 2.5 million papers. It conservatively estimated roughly 147,000 non existent citations in 2025. That estimate comes from a preprint and a detection methodology, not a final census of scientific misconduct. But the authors also found that moderation and publication processes caught only part of the problem. The institution's filter was not keeping pace with the volume entering it. Government gives us a cleaner accountability example. In April, South Africa withdrew its draft national AI policy after an internal review confirmed fictitious sources. The communications minister said the failure compromised the policy's integrity and credibility. In June, Cabinet approved the withdrawal, so the document could be reworked. That action matters because the institution did not defend the document by pointing to its own approval process. It revoked the promotion. The page can disappear. The borrowed authority often remains in cached summaries, presentations, search results, and downstream agent memory. Episode 1 established that consulting reports and official publications can carry synthetic citation failures into trusted records. That is bridge material, not today's new revelation. The new question is, what happens at the exact moment an institution gives the claim permission to exercise authority? Trust laundering is the conversion of an unsupported claim into accepted authority through institutional promotion. The raw error may come from AI, a rushed analyst, a copied blog, a stale database, or an ordinary human mistake. AI is an accelerant. It is not the whole crime scene. The laundering happens when the institution applies a trust marker without attaching the proof. Published, approved, signed, filed, peer-reviewed. Those are workflow states. They do not automatically describe the evidentiary state of every claim inside the artifact. That confusion is the signature fallacy, the assumption that approval proves the underlying evidence was checked. Most workflows can tell you who clicked approve. Far fewer can answer what the approver saw, which claims were load-bearing, whether the cited passages supported those claims, which exceptions were accepted, and where the claim traveled afterward. The institution is not laundering trust because it made an error. It is laundering trust when its status marker hides the absence of the proof the status implies. The answer is not to distrust every institution or prohibit AI-assisted drafting. The answer is evidence-bearing promotion. First, claim-level evidence receipts. Every consequential claim carries the source, the exact supporting passage or data location, the retrieval date, the producer, the verifier, and the unresolved uncertainty. A bibliography is not enough. A hyperlink proves that a destination exists. It does not prove that the destination supports the sentence being promoted. Second, sign the proof set, not merely the prose. The approver sees the claim inventory, evidence receipts, AI assistance, exceptions, and verification outcomes. The signature means, I accept responsibility for this evidentiary record. It cannot mean, the document looked professional and the executive summary was persuasive. Third, make revocation travel. When a claim is withdrawn, the correction must identify dependent reports, search surfaces, knowledge stores, agent memories, and decisions that consumed it. Publish a machine readable revocation record. Notify downstream owners. Quarantine the claim until its dependencies are repaired. A corrected PDF is not a correction system. Add one more operational rule around all three controls: gate by authority, not by document type. A footnote in a private draft and the same footnote inside a signed order are not the same risk. A market claim in a brainstorm and the same claim inside an acquisition memo do not deserve the same promotion path. The control must tighten as the artifact gains permission to influence people, money, rights, or future machine action. And preserve the rejected evidence too. When a verifier declines a claim, that outcome should remain attached to the artifact, so the next editor or agent cannot quietly reopen the same unsupported assertion as though nobody checked it. A correction is complete only when trust is removed everywhere the original promotion allowed it to spread. Full disclosure from inside NextGen AI. DX3 can preserve queryable entity lineage, processing steps, audit records, and supporting evidence on bounded paths. ASIF can preserve gate run state, producer identity, timestamps, and failures in selected workflows. That is useful and partial. A source pointer does not prove that the source entails the claim. Our provenance is not universally tamper evident at the database boundary, and these controls do not cover every artifact in the portfolio. We learned the distinction when an internal record correctly said an independent review had approved a package, but linked to the author's correction instead of the reviewer's actual verdict. The approval was true. The receipt was incomplete. We fixed the record and preserved the verdict. That is practice, not product. Our working evidence lives at NxtG.ai/insights. A trusted institution is not one that never publishes an error. It is one that makes verification inspectable, responsibility explicit, and revocation as portable as the original claim. Never let synthetic work become organizational memory without evidence. And never let an institutional marker become a substitute for that evidence. Letterhead can distribute a claim. A signature can authorize it. Only the proof set can justify the authority. Next episode, we turn from institutional failure to operating governance, what August 2nd changes, what it leaves untouched, and why a policy that cannot change system behavior is still only a statement of intent. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and make them show you the evidence.